We note with great exception the cutthroat violence that was meted out against demonstrators by both the police and armed goons purporting to be a vigilante group defending Nairobi City. From the onset, we condemn the barbaric conduct of these militia-like groupings who are acting in concert with the police officers. We have received and reviewed multiple images of this rogue gang walking and working hand in hand with the police to harass citizens and deprive them of their rights. We are exasperated by videos showing an attack by the criminal gang on an advocate of the High Court of Kenya who was on his way to meet with a client, Mr. Ken Ochieng, who confirmed that he witnessed the crowd of goons who descended on him being dropped off along Koinange Street by a police Land Cruiser escorted by several bodabodas carrying multiple armed pillion passengers. The attackers, who were all armed with blunt objects, were not part of the protesters, who were peaceful and did not interfere or engage with any person not taking part in the demonstration. The brazen attacks by these police supervised goons were well orchestrated, and the intention was to steal valuables from members of the public, loot shops, and grievously harm peaceful protesters. This is an anarchy, an act of impunity that goons can be deployed as a tool for repression against people expressing their democratic and constitutional rights. The police, instead of upholding law and order, watched on and even participated in the thuggery. We have seen images of police officers looting and making away with laptops from shops broken in by the goons. Sadly, those whom the people of Kenya have entrusted to protect their lives and property are at the heart of undermining the safety and security of Kenyans. Against the backdrop of recent acts of disproportionate violence perpetrated by the police over the recent months, the complicity and acquiescence of the police amid runway crimes against peaceful protesters and onlookers alike discloses a worrying trend of our National Police Service being reduced to a conduit of violent crimes. Should this trend be allowed to continue, the relationship between the public and the police faces the risk of damage beyond repair. That cannot become our reality as a nation. The general chaos that characterized the demonstration resulted into about 17 being reported casualties around the country. In Nairobi, an armed officer was filmed shooting at an unarmed hawker at point-blank range, leaving him for dead despite his non-involvement in the protests. The victim was rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital and is reportedly in a critical condition. We pray for his full recovery and look forward to positive updates from the hospital. I've had the privilege of meeting his father, Mr. John Karaoke, this afternoon, and he confirmed that he had seen his son on ICU tubes, but he's still concerned with the treatment and information being given at Kenyatta National Hospital. He's concerned about the hostility that he's received, irrespective of wanting to know the status of his son and how the treatment was ongoing. And his plea to the president of this country is not even selfishly for his own son. He cries out, raising concern that this is just his son who was shot, but what about the many other sons who will continue to be shot and maimed? And he seeks for justice, that this individual police officer be arrested and indicted and prosecuted before a court of law, and secondly, that the brutality by the police must come to an end. The murderous conduct of the officer involved was not only unjustified, it was premeditated. Such disregard for human life is the very reason behind the ongoing series of protests. And it is an anathema that the police respond to calls for their reform by perpetrating further atrocities and extrajudicial killings. While we acknowledge the statement from the National Police Service indicating that the officer involved has been identified and arrested, We maintain that such heinous crime and affront from the Constitution deserves full reprisal in the interest of justice and the rule of law. We shall not dance to the piper of a statement that is not only ambiguous but also fails to take responsibility for the criminal conduct of the officer in question. From the statement by the National Police Service, there is no evidence that the officer has been indicted for his heinous crime. The officer has not been named, identified, and the service number disclosed to the members of the public, and an unequivocal promise by the head of the National Police Service that he will be prosecuted and tried before the court of law. He must be treated as the face of impunity and criminality within the police service, and his ultimate punishment must serve as a lasting deterrent for all officers who undermine and violate their constitutional duties. During the protests, the Law Society of Kenya responded to calls from protesters who were arrested across the country, and our lawyers were stationed at various police stations to provide assistance to peaceful protesters who were apprehended by the police. In Mombasa, 4 activists, Francis Auma, Walid Sketi, Mugambi, and Batule Swale, were arrested and charged with unlawful assembly and assault. We note with concern the assault of Ms. Batule Swale by a police officer that was caught in the full glare of the media, and she was violently bundled into a police vehicle and placed under arrest. Ms. Swale did not pose any immediate threat to the police officer, and the use of force against her was unnecessary. Nevertheless, we have since secured the release of the 4 on police bail through our team led by the chairperson of the Mombasa Law Society, and will represent them during proceedings. However, we wait to hear what action is being taken, particularly by that police officer who was seen assaulting Ms. Swale. We maintain our resounding call for police reforms and strict compliance with the rule of law and clear constitutional and statutory standards set for our national security organs. We reiterate that the role of the National Police Service is to maintain law and order and not to perpetrate lawlessness, and their solemn duty is to protect and preserve life, not cut it short on whim and malice. We also raise concern, and we note the statement that has been made by the spokesperson of the judiciary, raising concern about the recent brutality. But also the ball falls upon the judiciary. We continue to see this element of lawlessness by the police because we are not holding that Oval Office as well to account. As long as they feel that cases can be bribed their way out of matters, that we see courts not holding these people accountable, judicial officers issuing orders, but yet they fail to go through in implementation of those orders by holding those who fail to uphold the rule of law in contempt, and they continue to have run-around games and hiding from responsibility. We'll continue to see the violence perpetrated against innocent Kenyans. We therefore as well demand for the judiciary to play their part. You cannot at one part say that you condemn, yet when the matters are presented before you, you do not take action that is within your powers. The people of Kenya, and it's sad to see, are taking matters into their hands to try and enforce court orders. We saw yesterday a video of one of the protesters coming out to demand that the police unmask themselves. What are we saying about our judiciary as well? Are they ready to follow through to their orders and hold those in power accountable? If they cannot hold themselves to account, then how will they also hold to account the other members of the National Police Service as well as the executive? We need arms of government that are working, and we need arms of government that are working for the people of Kenya.